get me stacking.
Triple threat.
Expected value. Now take what you learn, go out there, and get stacking.
What up, Gripsters and random YouTubers? Evan here for Grips.com, and yes, we have yet another epic tournament to review, starring our man, Ben U604, who went hella deep in the Mini FTOPS Main Event, cashing to the tune of $30,000. What? So, Ben plays a fast and aggressive, high-pressure style of poker. I'm not sure if it's quite on Hilke's level, but to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what we're about to get exposed to. I think we're in for a very fun watch. So, just before I get into the hands, a little bit about Ben. He's been playing poker for 2 years, having had a bit of live experience and reading Daniel Negreanu's book, Power No Limit Hold'em. He made the transition to online starting out with a $1.50 deposit and playing 6 max sit and goes to cut his teeth. He found the Grips Poker Training Project about a year ago when Project Get Me Stackin' first started off. And in the year since then, well, he's had quite the year. He's had quite a few deep runs, including final tabling the 265 knockout on PokerStars. That's $265, not $2.65. Making final tables of plenty of big buy-in turbos, 109s, and the like. But this one, this Mini FTOPS Main Event, is the one that takes the cake. This is the one that won him a new Scion FRS. That's a real sexy car for anyone who doesn't know. So, congratulations, Ben, on the fantastic result. Thanks for sharing, and let's get this party started. Cards in the air. I have a feeling we're not going to be playing things like 10-7, 9-8, King 5, Ace 10 maybe? Maybe not. In the early levels of these tournaments where you get like 500 big blinds, you can definitely justify playing hands like strong suited aces and strong suited broadways just based on the fact that you are so deep stacked. But you can also find yourself playing out of position when you raise those hands from up front, and it's not mandatory that you play them. Obviously, everything is always optional, and if you really want to follow that triple threat approach, position is the #1 ingredient to position, selection, and aggression. So here we made a full house and go for a little value bet, but no action to be had. I reckon we probably had the best hand on the flop with that bottom pair, and having a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw, getting a good price, it's going to be hard to find a fold. I think we'll see Ben making lots of seemingly loose peels by some people's standards, but when people are giving you great odds to call and continue, that's just what you do. You just call and continue. So we see some good discipline there, not calling the 3-bet with King-Jack offsuit despite being extremely deep stacked. And right there, a situation with 6-7 suited. It is a spot where we could have had multi-way action, which is what we're looking for with suited connectors. But the problem was, well, we're still in extremely early position. We could easily get squeezed from behind. And yeah, when you're playing those suited connectors, ideally you want to be the person with last say on each street. Here we fire a c-bet and shut down when called. I don't even know if you need to c-bet this board, but early stages, you know, you can get away with being creative and doing lots of stuff. Here when check two, them jacks, they're probably the best hand. And Ben continues to bet on the ace turn. You know, some people would check back on this turn out of A, possible just paranoia that the other guy made like 2 pair with aces up, or B, because they don't want to blow their opponent off their hand on this scare card. They want to get that bet in on the river. The thing about this particular board is with all the draws that are there, if your opponent has like a flush draw or an 8-7 or a 6-7 or a 4-5 or whatever, even though the ace came, as long as you don't bet too much, they're still probably going to call your bet, and they're going to be making an incorrect call, provided that you set the price at the right amount. If, however, you check back and then bet the river, they may just put you on what your hand looks like, which is something reasonably strong, and not give you that bet on the river unless they improve to a straight or a flush. That's not always how it's going to be. That's just how it's going to be sometimes, and why betting there is extremely justified. All right, we got ace king, and well, this is a hand we're willing to play for a lot of chips. We are 200 big blinds deep, but more importantly, we have ace king in a blind versus blind situation, and in these smaller buy-in tournaments, I mean, this isn't a tiny buy-in. I think it's 75 with like 6 entries. But in these tournaments where there are a lot of satellite players, people are going to overvalue hands. So, you know, blind versus blind ace king, it's generally fine to try to get the money in, which is what it looks like Ben is trying to do here. I imagine if BB Rugby had 5-bet, Ben would have been happy to 6-bet all in. And this is a flop that he's also probably feeling pretty happy about. So, what do you guys think? Small c-bet to the tune of 950. I like it. At this point, we're just going for all 3 streets. We're trying to play for stacks. So a bet here that leaves about a pot-sized bet on the river is going to be ideal. So I think anything in the range of like 1,400 to 2,400 is cool. And Ben bets dead in the middle of those 2 numbers. So here we are on the river. Figure let's just go for the third. But interesting. Ben opts to check here. And let's look at this a little bit. If we think that BB Rugby will bet with some hands that he wouldn't call a bet with, but he will also bet with all the hands that he would have called a bet with, hope you're following me, then checking is going to be more profitable. If, however, he will check back some hands that would have called a bet, then he needs to be betting a lot more hands in addition to that to make up for the ones that we lose value from by not betting and getting called. So Ben checks, his opponent goes all in, and we're obviously never folding top pair, top kicker. We didn't check because we're afraid that our opponent has like a set or like 2 pair. If he does, well, click the register button and re-enter. We checked to induce bluffs from worse hands and also probably get the same value from hands like king, queen. And if our opponent 3-bet pre and then called a 4-bet with something like queens, jacks, or 9s, if for whatever reason he called the flop and turn bet, he's probably not calling the river bet anyway. So the only hand we maybe lose value from by checking there is like king, queen, or king, jack suited. But Ben gained a lot of additional value from a hand that had nothing, and it's like, what's this guy doing on every street? Why is he calling the flop? Why is he calling the turn? I guess it was also he could try to take it away on the river. And it's not like these guys even had dynamic. So just a spaz out there from our opponent, and now he's sitting out because he is so damn tilted. Oh, I love it. That's what you're going to get in these small or these large field tournaments that have lots of satellite players. Just some crazy, crazy play. So, fantastic flop for us. Combo draw. I think both plays are options. You could just check raise to try to get this in. Or we can just, you know, check call and then, you know, play according to what our opponent does. Ben opts to check call again, and an unfortunate river, and it looks like he could have got a lot more value if he had played that a little faster. I think the option to check call the flop is fine. I'm a little interested as to why, Ben, you went for a check call on the turn rather than a check raise. If your opponent has like a straight or a strong queen or something, do you think he's going to fold it to a check raise And also, do you think he has a lot of bluffs in his range that he's going to continue betting with if we just check call? I think with our hand being so strong, fast, and the guy willing to bet twice on a board that's starting to get pretty textured and pretty dangerous, I think going for value here is the play. And if he happens to have the ace high flush, c'est la vie. We got super cool. We're probably going to lose a lot of chips anyway, but please let us know your thoughts and reasons for going with the check call on the turn rather than a check raise. Very much interested to hear your thoughts. Nice pot. Nice win. Could have been nicer, but hey, you take what you get and you just be happy with the results. If the guy had turned over, absolute bupkis there, Ben looks like a genius for giving him the opportunity to keep bluffing. This is a spot where I've seen some players actually do two barrel, and it's interesting, but I like Ben's approach of just keeping the pot small in the early stages. There's no need to get carried away with large multi-barrel bluffs when there's not that much out there relative to stacks. If you're picking up these pots of like 600, 800 chips, they do help, definitely. But when you're looking at 20K stacks, you can probably find better spots to invest large chunks of your chips. Of course, if you have a strong read on your opponent and you think he peels flops wide and gives up to second barrels a lot, by all means go for it. But in the absence of information, it's better to just wait for these ideal spots like when you flop the joint. Ben playing it slow again. Oh man, and that's not really the turn and river you hope for when you flop the joint. I think it's probably pretty thin to go for a value bet at this point. I don't really think a queen is going to be calling, so checking back seems like the play. And two queens would probably begrudgingly call. So quite the cooler there. We see that Ben did not lose a huge chunk of chips, and this is kind of the inverse to what we saw with the king 10 of diamonds, where we didn't get all the value, but we guarantee that we also don't lose all our value in our stack. This shows that, sometimes they wake up with the top of the range and playing a passive style of just kind of keeping pots of reasonable size and allowing your opponents to bluff off and wait until later streets to make your play is a fine option. By the way, Ben, if the guy three-barreled when you had the king 10 of diamonds, you were intending to raise the river, I'm guessing, and probably, fold if he came over the top again. Oh, let's go. Queen Jack against Deuce 5. Oh, man. You know what they call the Deuce 5 in Northern Europe? It's the Norwegian nuts. I don't know why. I think, no, it's not the Norwegian nuts. It's Norwegian aces. These are the Deuce 5 suited. It's the Norwegian aces. Very strong hand. And Ben is starting to get his aggro on just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Getting in there with the 9-10 of DD. And so far he's been choosing his c-bets pretty well. There are a couple of spots where I don't know that I would have taken them, but his success rate's been reasonably high. Here we got an interesting one. Open from someone who, Silberecken, who just lost a pot to us, so he's probably chip chasing a bit. And when the button 3-bets, Ben decides he's going to cold 4-bet with hand that can flop okay. King Jack. I'm curious if there were reads on this guy or if you just really wanted to isolate and finish the job on BB Rugby. But if you're going to cold 4-bet, Broadway hands are decent candidates to do so due to the fact that they can flop decently. They'll flop top pair a good chunk of the time, and often in large pots when you're just going to try to get that shit to showdown. Being able to make top pair is often going to be what enables you to make the winning hand. I'm very kind of shocked to see just a check fold here. I think with a gut shot, and an overcard, and just a spot where your opponent could be peeling with like a pocket pair or something that misses this board completely. At least a c-bet is in order, if not a check call. Anytime you have some sort of equity in the pot, like the ability to make the nuts, therefore a way to like have a guaranteed winner, just folding your hand is generally not going to be the preferred option. If we had like Queen 8 or something there, where we don't really have any way to make the nuts and we don't have any showdown value, I can understand just check folding. But Ace Queen has both a little bit of showdown value, chance of being the best hand, but more importantly, a way to make the nuts on certain turn cards. Ben, getting his aggro on again, 3-betting the Ace Queen, and I imagine we are going for all the streets of value on the Ace 6-5 flop. How you guys liking his aggression level so far? You a fan? I'm gonna guess that as the blinds get bigger, his ranges are going to get wider, and the amount of pressure he's gonna put on is gonna get much bigger. I think at this early stage, opening a hand like Ace Reg is kind of unnecessary. Could pick up the blinds and antes, but what is, here we go, 600 gonna do for your 23K stack? And if you get flatted in position or 3-bet, having Ace Reg just kind of sucks, but always open to opinions, reasons, and justifications for opening such hands. And here we go, defending King 7 off. We're getting a very nice price, 4.1 to 1. We do have a king with a decent kicker. Like I told you guys, Ben is playing that style where he's going to be seeing a lot of flops, getting into a lot of spots. And in these large field tournaments, it's a great way to try to accumulate some chips. Wow, quite the flop. Bet when he 3-bet Jack 6 diamonds, he didn't expect to smash the board this hard. And our hand's just too strong to ever fold at this point. Do a quick poker stove. Stove. Where you at? What the fuck? There we go. There we go. So, stove. Let's just take a look at our equity if we're up against like 2 aces. Jack 9-8, right? There we go. Jack 9-8. At the board? Yeah, okay. So if our opponent has aces, I mean, Doughty has aces because he probably would have 4-bet those pre, but we're flipping. If our opponent has queens, again, pretty much flipping. It's not quite, we're slightly behind, but with the 3K that's already in the middle, we're obviously going for it. Now, if he has a set or something, we are actually in some trouble. Let's take a look at our equity against those sets. 31%, which we're giving up some. I'm playing 10K behind in chips, and there's 3K in the middle. For it to be break even, you know, the pot would have to be the same as the stack sizes. But his range is not going to be exclusively set. So if we give him sets and some over pairs and some open enders and maybe some top pairs with gutters and stuff, and maybe the Jack 10s. Let's see how we stack up. It's around a flip, and that's giving him a pretty strong range. We'll throw 2 pair in there as well. Our equity actually went up. It's probably because we can also make 2 pair as well as all the flushes and trips. So anyway, when we 3-bet pre and get this flop, we are not folding. He has King Jack, and just for shits and gigs, let's see if we're a favorite. You guys think we're a favorite? Let's see, we got 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 outs twice. I think we're going to be a tiny underdog. Yeah, 45%. It's fine. Unfortunately, we don't make the winner on the end. And sometimes that's going to happen when you get involved with hands as weak as Jack 6 suited. But, you know, that's just a really coolery flop. And when you play hands like that, you're just accepting you're going to be taking a bit more variance And speaking of taking variance, Ben decides to throw in a little bluff raise on the 8-6-5 flop, which I think is fine. If we think our opponent is primarily 3-betting Broadway hands and big pairs, then he's only continuing when he flops the flush draw, which is, 1 time out of 4 when he's got the suited hands, and even less when he's got offsuit hands. And he's continuing when he has the big pairs as well. I think he has enough hands in his range that are not those, so 2,200 to win 3,600 seems fine. But once our opponent continues, kind of a tough spot. The king is definitely a scare card if the guy has, anything between 9s and queens. But also, with us only having like a pot-sized bet left, exactly 7,600 to 7,300, I just don't know if the guy's going to buy it. He's going to be getting decent odds. Ben opts to go for it and gets blasted right off his hand. And you guys are sitting there, jaws dropping to the keyboard, being like, and how is this guy going to end up getting the massive score? Not to worry. Ben's got some real good game, especially when it comes to the late stages, and recognize that this aggressive style of play that we've seen so far, and that we also saw in Hilke's video, is one that, when it doesn't work, you look terrible. You look like a bit of a clown. But when it does work, this is how you accumulate heaps and heaps and heaps of chips. And you also create a lot of fear equity to the point where people just don't want to get involved with you. I think this shove is a bit loose. In fact, I think kind of all the shoves just now, the 7-6 suited over a limp and the deuces over a raise, and just the king 10 suited into so many players is pretty loose. But if you think people are in there with really weakish ranges and they're willing to limp fold and they're willing to min raise fold to those stack sizes, these short stack sizes, then the play's okay. But I will just say they are very high risk. But when you get so short stacked this early on in a tournament, especially a re-entry, it's okay to take high risk situations, because if you can't get back in the game by building your stack, you can always just rebuy. Speaking of high risk, wow. So Castle goes for the 2-barrel and Ben says, I'm all in. Castle, I think you can only really call with the king. And he's probably got a lot of hands that are not kings. So, given we know that he makes it to the end, unless our opponent calls it like a 6 and we rip off a 10, I have a feeling this play is going to work. And that is a nice chip up. So, just looking 4K to win, 43 to win 45. It needs to work about half the time. And it worked that time. So, it's been a swingy start. Maybe there was a little bit of tilt there. Maybe there was a little bit of frustration that after having gotten to 20K so early on in the game, Ben got dropped all the way down to almost out, and he wanted to, get back to his starting stack. Maybe that factored into these extremely highly aggressive plays. But we're back. We got 10K, and Ben is continuing to really go for it with these large reshoves. That's 26 big blinds there. Again, definitely high risk, but in these large field tournaments, you have to acquire so many chips. Like when we get to the final table, you're going to see the stacks are like in the millions. It's all right to make these high risk plays early because you just have so far to go still. Getting to 20K, 30K, it helps, but it's not going to get you to the end. So the earlier you can get chips to work with, the better when the field is just so large and you have so many players to get through. What's this guy repping? Checking back and raising turn? Seems kind of fishy. And jacks. Interesting why he would play jacks like that. I guess he's trying to get us to stab with our air, but then why raise? Why not just call and then call again on the river, keeping the bluffs in? Maybe you want to charge the draws. I don't know, because I am not Figgle AARZ. And Figgle AARZ might not even know why he did that play. It might just have been like what felt right at the time. And after seeing he's kind of a clicky, buttony player, I'm totally down with Ben 4-betting there. I'm probably planning to call off. And here we hit a good flop after defending wide once again. So, you guys like check call, check raise? I like check call, but you know, if our opponent has a queen, he's obviously never folding. If our opponent has a flush draw, whether we check call, check raise, or check call and then lead the turn, he's probably going to be continuing. But if our opponent has like a pair below queens or just air, he's probably going to get a little bit worried when facing a check raise. And when we have the deck so crippled, we're holding, you know, one of the key cards and there's only one left. It's much more likely your opponent has nothing rather than having something. So, in situations like that, I personally think I like to give them a chance to catch something that they might justify hero calling on the river when in reality they were drawing dead on the flop. All right. So are we going to open that king 3? Just given how aggressive he's been so far, wouldn't surprise me. But with the small blind having less than 10 BBs and the big blind having 21 BBs, good reshove stacks, I guess Ben was probably concerned that he might get shoved on if he opened that hand. And, well, there's no sense in going for a steal if you just think it's rarely going to be working out. So do you guys think he's going to defend, given what you've seen before so far? 8 points, 6 to 1, only needing 10% equity. Let's do a stove. Let's just see what equity 3-2 suited has against like some good hands, just for shits. We'll give aces and we'll do Jack 10 suited and we'll do ace queen off. Now we only got 8%. What about if it's just a bunch of pairs? Interesting. 10%. 10.4. We need 10.4. Perfect. Now this is not factoring in implied odds. This is just the raw equity if we were to run the board out. But it's a bit of a guideline you can look at for deciding when or when not to defend. So we got that flush draw, and now we got that flush. Question is lead or just check again, because obviously the players are going to be a little wary and a little concerned when the flush comes in. They may slow down. Ben opts to check, and we're looking at another small bet. With these small bets, we probably have the best hand, and with win just calling, I'm feeling pretty confident that we have the best hand. He may just call with a full house, but there's still a decent amount of stack to get in, so I think we may have seen a small raise from win at that point. And Ben checks again to the river, allowing his opponents to bluff. At this point, he springs it, going for that value, and turned out they just didn't have much at all. Anyway, I guess that means they probably would have folded to a check raise on the turn. So Ben got maximum value, in fact, an extra 4,800 by just calling the turn, and maybe an extra 9,600 by not leading the turn either. So that is going to wrap up part 1. We've seen quite the roller coaster ride, going from 20 to 2 to 40 to who knows where. But I'll tell you, we will get in the 7-figure range before this series is complete. So I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this series. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you were able to learn something in this video that you can use it to both step up your win rate and big up your bankroll. This has been Evan for Gripst.com. Always a pleasure. Now take what you learned, go out there, and get stacking.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking.
Stack it up, cash it in, damn I win again. Many friends come to play, cause I'm on the internet. Better yet, I flop the turn and take a chance upon the river. I'll bluff you with the 7-2 offsuit, whatever's clever, call you all in while your chip stacks falling. Better believe the dealer, cause the game just started. Don't know the rules, you bet it all and then you risk it. If you wanna learn it, you should go online and hit up Gripsit.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. Ever since a young cat, want a pocket stack with cash in the fast stack, crammed in the clam clip. Gotta get the action, gotta get it stacking. Dollars on the noggin, want a lot of transactions. Started as a little retarded, now with the knowledge, playing cards, flopping, bombarded cause it was harder than I thought. Then I got on Grips.com, asking and got what I needed to beat him and get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com tell you how to get stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com